DreAllDay.com.
Dre Baldwin, DreAllDay.com. Here I want to talk about remembering what business you are in. And I actually thought about this subject because I was just listening to some comments for the upcoming NBA basketball season. And my hometown team, the Philadelphia 76ers, got two players that I have noticed talk a little bit too much about this MVP award thing. So James Harden, who just got on the Sixers last year, he's a guy who I'm fine with the Sixers having Harden. I'm not the biggest James Harden fan. I mean, last year I was in Philly, or last season I was in Philly, and I was at the last game that they won in the playoffs against the Heat when they tied the series up 2-2. Then they got stomped out the last two games. And James Harden's a guy who multiple times, he won the MVP award once, right? But then multiple times, several different seasons, he's been talking about MVP, or that first year he was in Brooklyn, he was declaring himself the MVP. Then one of the years he was in Houston, he was mad he didn't get the MVP. The year Russell Westbrook got it for the triple-double. Then this year, during the preseason, he was being interviewed by somebody, and he said to the interviewer was egging him along with this, and I understand the interviewers play a role in this, but the reporter was egging him along. Like, yeah, what do you think your ceiling is and all this? And James Harden said, I've always said, when I'm 100% healthy, the ceiling for me is MVP. James Harden said that out of his mouth. And I'm going to come back to that in a second. Now, his teammate, the other best player on the Sixers, probably the best player, is Joel Embiid. Now, Joel Embiid, the first year he was really deep into the MVP discussion was this past season, and Jokic, ended up beating him out to win the MVP. But one of the things Joel said along the way, and this is something that really has started to annoy me, and he's not the first guy to do it. Many players have done this, so I'm just using them as examples. But along the way, during the season, as the conversation's going on, who's going to be MVP, probably around like February, March, they start talking about this. Joel Embiid started saying things like, well, if I don't win MVP, I'm feeling like people are not respecting me, or they just don't like me, or James Harden has said this as well. At the year that one of the years that Giannis won MVP, James Harden said something like this: "Oh well, it's just the narrative around me." So narrative, not liking me, not respecting me, these kind of things about getting the MVP award. James Harden has done this multiple times. Joel Embiid did it at least this past season, and he's probably going to do it again this season. Here's the issue with this, and several issues. First of all, the Sixers are my hometown team. So if I want to see any NBA team successful, I want to see the Sixers be successful. That's why this got my attention. Secondly is this: what business are we in here? If you play in the NBA, if you're a player on a team, the business that you're in is winning the fucking games. You're not in the business of getting individual awards. Now listen, I played basketball. I would love to get individual awards as well. But the business that I'm in is winning fucking games. So if I don't get individual awards, but my team wins games, then I should be good with that. It annoys the hell out of me when a player who is not winning games, or they are not winning when they're expected to win, then starts talking about individual awards. Like, wait a minute, what business are you in here? James Harden is a guy who, any of you who's a basketball fan, I think we all can agree, multiple times in his career has been in spaces when he was expected to play at a certain level, or his team was expected to be competitive, let alone successful, and James Harden did not deliver. He did it more than once playing for Houston. He did it last season playing for the Sixers when he just simply did nothing the last two games of that series in the Heat. He had a good game in game 4 I was at in Philly. They tied it up 2-2. Then he did nothing the last two games, and the Sixers got stomped out of that series. And he did it multiple times playing in Houston. Like when he had Chris Paul on his team and they were up 3-2 and Chris Paul got injured and James Harden couldn't take him home, even though there's a guy talking about being MVP, or just a chance to be MVP. Then that year they played San Antonio, he did nothing in that game. He did the game 6 or game 7. He has multiple of these on his resume. And you're talking about why you should be MVP, or you're the MVP, or some narrative against you. Dog, it's not a fucking narrative. Those are facts. You didn't show up when it mattered. And the object of the game, again, ain't winning MVP. The object of the game is to win the game. If you win all the games, you get a trophy that's not MVP, it's a championship. All right, that's the trophy that we all play for, ostensibly. I would think that's what we're going after. Joel Embiid start to fall into this, and hopefully he didn't get influenced by James Harden. Maybe he did. Doesn't matter. Either way, he did it. Either way is not good. Him talking about, oh, well, they're not respecting me or they must not like me if I don't get the MVP vote. Motherfucker, y'all have not delivered in the playoffs. Like, go to the conference finals, win the conference finals, go to the damn finals. You haven't even been to the finals yet. What are you talking about the MVP? Why do you care if you win the MVP or not if you haven't won the championship or not? Like, that's the thing that I'm looking at. And again, those of y'all who are watching this, y'all are basketball fans. Many of you are from a newer era. If you're younger than me and you're from a newer era, you tell me what you're seeing in this. And I think I'm explaining this clearly enough to help you understand. Yes, I get it that you want to win the MVP. Who doesn't want to win MVP? Everybody wants to win MVP. If you're in the top 5 conversation, it'd be great to get that trophy. You get to put it on your mantle, and you can always say, I was the MVP of the best basketball league in the world this particular year. I get it. But at the same time, what's the goal? I'll tell you something that I heard Kobe Bryant say back in like 2009. This is back when social media really started to pop off and everybody was building their brands. That was the phrase everybody was using. And Kobe said, everybody's trying to build brands out here. I'm just trying to win as many championships as possible. And Kobe only got one MVP. Only one MVP. But there were, for several years, Kobe was probably the best player in the league, but we know that's not the MVP, is a whole different discussion. The whole point is not that Kobe deserved more MVP awards. Doesn't matter how many championships Kobe had. That's the point. And that's what Kobe was exactly saying. Like, people trying to build their brands and they're worrying about what's going to happen for them individually. My goal is to win the championships and help my team get that trophy at the end of the year. That's what I'm focused on. That's what Kobe was about. Michael Jordan, the same thing. Michael Jordan never even said it out loud. There were multiple times Michael Jordan probably should have got MVP, didn't get it, but he won the championship. So the year Charles Barkley got it over him in 1993, Karl Malone got it over him in 1997. And what happened both of those years? He went to the finals, played against Barkley, beat him, went to the finals, played against Malone, beat him. So he ain't got to argue about MVP. All right, who won the championship that year? Me. That's the ultimate thing, because championships are objective. Only way you win a championship is by winning the games. The MVP is subjective. It's based on people's opinions and votes. So if people don't like you, like Joel Embiid said, or there's some narrative against you, like James Harden insisted, all right, so what? All right, it ain't you losing in the second round of the playoffs is not a narrative, and you flaming out and not showing up in the last game of the series when your team gets eliminated, that ain't a narrative, is it? That's not somebody not liking you. That's just you not fucking showing up and doing your job. So the whole point is, for all of you, I don't care what you do for a living. Most of you are not professional basketball players. Ask yourself what business you're in, and you need to answer to the question. What business are you in? Are you in the business of, if you are a basketball player, are you in the business of getting individual awards, or are you in the business of winning games? And no, you're not in both businesses. Which business are you in? Choose what business you're in. Human beings cannot produce at their highest possible level at when their focus is divided amongst more than one thing. We do our best work, all human beings, when we're focused on one thing at a time. I'll tell you one last thing about Jordan. That one year, the Chicago Bulls were in training camp before the season, and they went around the room, and Phil Jackson said to all the players, all right, tell me what I want everybody to tell me what their biggest individual goal is for the season. What's your biggest goal for the season? They went around the room, and some guy might be like, I want to be a starter. Some guy might say, I want to score this many points. Somebody might say, I want to make the all-star team. And they go around the room, they get to Michael Jordan. And Michael Jordan said, I have no individual goals. My only goal is to win a championship, and everybody in this room is going to follow my lead. That's focus. Now, Michael Jordan also was pretty goddamn good, and he might have even won the MVP that year, that he wasn't even focusing on winning the MVP. The whole point is, when your focus is clear, then you know what business you're in. But if you got the best players on your team talking about individual awards, that's an issue. That's a challenge as far as I'm concerned. So that's what gives me pause about my hometown Sixers going into the season, is that our two best players are two guys who have more than once made a little bit too much noise, and any noise is too much noise, about whether they get an individual award, as opposed to saying, well, listen, if I get the award, great, but that ain't my focus. My focus is winning the championship. I never heard Kobe campaign for an MVP award. I never heard Michael Jordan campaign for an MVP award. I never heard Tim Duncan campaign for an MVP award. These guys all got championships, multiple championships. James Harden and Joel Embiid, what they got? complaints about why they didn't get the MVP and why people are against them, and it shit just annoys the shit out of me. And even if they weren't my hometown team, I would have pointed this out, but it's my hometown team. So I hope, because James Harden is a good player, and Joel Embiid is a very good player, and the Sixers have a good team this year, I hope that neither of these guys ever mentions the MVP again for the rest of this season, even if they're talking about the other guy. I don't want to hear James Harden campaigning for Joel Embiid. I don't want to hear Joel Embiid campaigning for James Harden. I don't want to hear either one of them campaigning for each other. Win fucking games. We are in the business of winning championships, not in the business of getting individual awards. Stop even talking about the shit. If a reporter asks you a question, tell them, my focus is winning championships. I don't care about MVPs. If I get it, great, but I ain't campaigning for that, and I ain't got nothing to say about it. That's what they should be saying, if they knew what business they were in. But I'm not sure these guys do. Y'all let me know what y'all think. If it's crazy for players to be campaigning for individual awards when their teams have not had the team success that has been expected of them, and they've been the best players on teams that lost in the playoffs in times where they were expected to win. Y'all let me know if I'm crazy for pointing out that that's crazy. Work on your game. Dre all day.